Welcome to the Heidi Thorne Show. I'm your host, Heidi Thorne, and in this podcast, I share my real world self publishing and small business experience with you. So let's get started with today's show. Now, in today's episode, we're going to talk about book reviews again. Now, quite some time back, I talked about how doing book reviews for other authors' books that you read is good karma because it helps build the author community and it also builds your critical thinking skills when it comes to writing. So, yes, continue to do book reviews for books that you do read. However, today we're going to talk specifically about getting book reviews. Now, getting organic book reviews for your book is extremely difficult. And it's not just you. It is difficult for any seller online to get organic reviews. It's on the order of single-digit percentage points of people who actually take the time to review the products they buy or the books that they read. What happens is that there's like an average buyer, and the average buyer gets the product, reads the book, they're satisfied with their purchase, and they move on to the next thing. So they're not really too worried about doing a review. And so sometimes you'll also see organic reviews that are extremely polarized, meaning you'll have a lot of people who really love it and then they're prompted to do a review, or you have people who are extremely upset and they do the one-star reviews. And then they'll usually say something awful like, oh, if I could give it 0 stars, I would. So you might see a lot of polarized organic reviews for your book, or actually for almost any product online. So take that into consideration, that organic reviews might be very positive or very negative, and it usually is not going to be totally representative of the total buying public or reading public for your book. So don't get all down about that, okay? And because the number of reviews that you get, and you want to get a good cross-section of readers to review your book, but those are difficult to solicit as well. And I've seen a lot of authors who blanket their immediate circle of friends and colleagues and followers on social media, and they say, here, get a free copy of my book, and they are really anxious to get a review, especially at book launch, which I think is kind of odd because the day it comes out, all of a sudden there's this flurry of reviews. Now, there's no way that the day the book launches, that the people will buy the book, read the book, and do the review the same day it launches. So I know as a buyer, I know if I see a book that is on a book launch and I see that the day it launches, there's a ton of reviews, I know that those reviews have been engineered, manufactured, and so I don't take those too much into consideration. And also, what happens is that a lot of those people are given a free copy of the book. So those are not verified purchases either. And verified purchase reviews carry much more weight than just a review from a random person online. So I would hesitate to do that. I would also hesitate blanketing your circle of friends with free copies of your book. One, because if you give them a PDF copy of it, they could share it with everyone on their email contact list, or they could even share it on social media, for heaven's sake. So you don't want to do that because that will decrease your sales. And you also have to remember too that if you give all of your immediate circle of friends and your immediate network copies of the book for free, that is your initial market. That is your initial core market. If you give it to all of them for free, chances are, your sales are going to decrease. So I'm always very hesitant to give free copies of books out to potential reviewers, especially in my immediate network. And you have to also remember when you're asking friends, some of them may feel obligated to do the review, and they'll just do it because, oh yeah, so and so asked me to do it, but they're not really interested as a reader. So when you do approach friends, if you do decide to do that, give them an out. Tell them, I would appreciate it if you read it and review, but if you don't have the time, that's okay. I get it. I want you to do this when and if you have time and energy to do it. Otherwise, please don't do it. I can get reviews from others. So that's not the right mindset if you just want to, like just give it to your friends because it will obligate them to do a review. No, that's not good either. And so just keep those things in mind. And you also don't want to just force copies of your book on potential reviewers. Lately, in fact, this whole episode was prompted by some solicitations for book reviews that I've gotten lately. Some of these are just random people. I don't know who they are. They saw me maybe on LinkedIn, or maybe they saw me on Instagram or Facebook, or maybe they saw my podcast. It could be anything, but they just approach me to review their book. Now, I'm not discounting that. You certainly want to reach out to people who would be a good fit to review your book. So I'm not discounting that at all. But you have to remember that people will invest time and energy into your book review. An average book, let's say, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred pages. It will take your reviewers time to read it, and it will take time for them to review it. It could be anywhere from maybe 4 to 8 hours for them to do that. When you approach someone to review your book, you are asking for hours of their time in exchange for a copy of your book. Well, in my world, I have a lot of reading and writing to do. So for me to take on these free projects that only offer me a free copy of a book that I probably wouldn't have read anyway, I'm probably not going to take all of those offers, even though I don't want to be rude, because yes, I want to support the author community by doing reviews, but I'm only going to do reviews for books that I honestly want to read. I'm not going to just do it for anybody who gives me a free copy of the book. And where I think it's really difficult, and it's expensive for both the author or author publisher and for the reviewer, is when the author or publisher just sends out physical copies of the book. That is so expensive. I've seen it done not in the not too distant past, but I saw it more years ago, where a copy of a book that might have been an author I liked or something would just show up in my mailbox. I'm like, where did this come from? I never ordered this. And then I go back and think, well, did I mistakenly order this, or did I get someone else's order? And but I always felt kind of strange getting that book. Because then now I have a physical book, which I really don't like to read when I do reviews. I'd rather get it on the Kindle app so that while I'm reading it on my iPad, I can make notes about the book. Sure, I can make notes on a print book too, but then that's just a lot more hassle for me. So I don't want any print books. So before you start sending out print copies of your book, it's not like a gift to them. People are going to wonder, well, what do you want me to do with this? So it's a very expensive option. So don't do that unless you've actually gotten an okay from the person that you are sending it to, that it's okay to send the copy of the book. And as we're talking about Kindle books, I again would prefer to get the Kindle ebook version. I don't like to read through PDFs. They're just more awkward for me to make notes. The Kindle app has it's so easy for me to do reviews on that. And then authors think, well, I would have to pay for that book to send it to a reviewer. Of course you do. But then remember that that will count as a sale, and so you'll get the royalty from it as you normally would. So you're not going to pay full price for it anyway. So I think the Kindle ebook version, sending it to your reviewers who have said, okay, they want to do it, I think that's the best option these days. And it saves you money, and it saves everyone in terms of time and effort. Now, I know some of this might seem a little odd for some of you, because you think, well, why don't I just send them a copy of the book? Won't they be obligated? No. You know what? And years ago, and just from a personal experience, years ago, I would give free copies of my books to some of my friends because I thought they would be great reviewers. And some of them never, ever reviewed it. I doubt that some of them even read it. So yes, organic book reviews, genuine book reviews are extremely difficult to get. But I treat them like gold. Every time someone actually does a review, I am so honored and so appreciative that they have taken the time to not only read the book, but that they've taken the time to do the reviews. So just some thoughts on book reviews and getting more of them. You want to be professional in how you approach your potential reviewers. So those are today's tips, and I hope you have found them helpful. If you have, I would really appreciate it if you would go over to iTunes and give the Heidi Thorne Show a nice rating and review. Also, subscribe to the podcast in whatever platform you like to consume podcasts in. It could be iTunes or Stitcher or Podbean, and if you'd rather see the video, it's available on my Heidi Thorne YouTube channel, so then you just have to subscribe to my YouTube channel. My books, ebooks, and audiobooks are available on Amazon.com, and the audiobooks are available on iTunes and Audible. If you'd like to connect with me, please visit my website at HeidiThorne.com. And I'd like to thank you for your support and for listening.